Hello everyone, we're going to do a quick overview of the Wairere Nudie ram sale held here in New Zealand, February 2024. On that sale, 95 Nudies and Brazilians. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can watch the rest of the video. They were sold, 95 of those animals at 4,600 New Zealand dollars average. Purebred Nudies, just the Nudies themselves, the purebred Nudies. That's the Wairere Nudies. $4,844 average across that range of purebred animals. Right, a few noticeable animals. We got this fella here. No, they weren't selling pandas this year. They were selling Dutch spotted. We had a ram, $800, a ram, $800, and a ewe, $1,200. Lucky I hadn't registered because I would have been putting my bids on those animals right there just because they were different. They would make great animals to sell to lifestyle blocks because they're kind of cute. Anyway, the proceeds from those animals was presented to or donated to the Rescue Helicopter Trust. Great cause. Great of Wairere to do so. Right, let's look at those big noters of the sale, shall we? We got this fella here coming in fifth equal. Oi, yep, fifth equal. $9,000 on that fella there. Good looking ram. If you want a bit of leg, he's going to throw some leg into those sheep that you've got there. And we've got that fella there. Now, that is my pick, actually. He is a bit of a stunner, big body. That's the kind of sheep that I really like. That's my pick, as I said. Right, moving on. $9,000 right there. Right, moving on to this fella here. Lot 15. He was the first to hit the 5 digits. Yep, $10,000 on that boy there. It's 10,000 New Zealand dollars. Look at those numbers. He's got some great numbers. I'm pretty sure that fella there was 53 kilos, which isn't bad for a 6-month-old animal. Great looking sheep. Right, moving on to the next fella. We got this fella here. Right, he added a grand to the one before that. $11,000 for that ram. Good figures. Nice looking sheep. Now there's one that beat him, of course. There's the top seller of the day. And he's right here. Number 40, lot 40. 12,500 New Zealand dollars on that Wairere Nudie right there. Look at the eye muscle numbers. Look at this eye muscle number down here. Massive numbers, absolutely huge. And he was the top performer on the day. Absolute star. All right, if you want to know more, I'm going to slow down in my talking and we're going to run for you a few more things. Hello, everyone. It's Calvin from Shedding Sheep, New Zealand. I'm all about spreading the word of what's happening primarily with shedding sheep here in New Zealand and letting people know what's out there, what are their options, because I see a shift in sheep farming in the next few years. I've got my own interest, and so a great way for me to learn and to me to grow in my knowledge is to also share that knowledge. A little bit of housekeeping. This is not a paid advertisement by Wairere. I'm not associated with Wairere. It is my own independent review of their sale. Yes, I've got permission from them to do so, and they will be reviewing it before you see it, as I do with anybody who I'm making a video about or involved. Those primary people, I get permission. All right. Also, if you are looking to buy any sheep of any kind from any breeder, I always recommend building a relationship with that breeder. Do your due diligence. Read as much as you can about them. Attend open days, step on their soil, talk to them about their farming practices. And these sheep are no different. It's the same process. Right, we're going to start off with what's a nudie? Because that's going to be one of the first questions that people ask. And I think, actually, I'm sorry, but this video you may get to the end of it with more questions that you never had before, and I may not be able to provide all the answers, so we may have to revisit at some point. So, the Wairere Nudies. They are a rebranded UK shedding sheep. In the UK, they're called an Easycare sheep. The founder of these sheep was a man called Lolo And please excuse me for the Welshman who anyone I may have said that wrong. Now, Lolo was a Welshman, 92 years old, and sadly he passed away on the morning of the auction. And he is the founder of the Easycare sheep. He strove ahead, well ahead of his time, and swapped over to a no-wall sheep. And it's kind of a fitting tribute to him to see his sheep sell so well down here in the southern hemisphere, well away from, and it's probably something more than he'd ever envisaged.
Okay, I just will, we had a wee bit of a pause there, ladies and gentlemen. One thing I did want to point out, the guy who developed these sheep was a guy named Lolo Owens, spelled L-L-O, or L-O-L-O, I think it is, yeah. Yeah, so Welsh, obviously. So he was from east, way over the west of Wales, a place called Anglesey Peninsula, and he spent about 30 years breeding these sheep, and he was a Nuffield scholar, the same as Derek, and came out and actually visited Wairere, and Derek visited him in Wales, and he was very pleased that, after the friendship that was made, that, some years later, we actually took up his sheep to come here to New Zealand. And sadly, last night he passed away at 92. So, a bit ironical that here we are having the second sale, and yeah, I'm sure he's looking down on us though, and wishing us and you all the success. So, right, away we go.
Right, if you'd like to know a little bit more about the process, the fact Wairere handpicked the dams and the size for these sheep from the UK, Wairere website has a fantastic bit of a write-up on where's the upside, and I will put a link to that in the description where you can have a bit of a read and find out about the nudies.
Righto, we're on to the hoggets, ladies and gentlemen, the new generation. These fellas here both by the sire 13929, who's a Moss-Fennan bred ram, and they are out of Moss-Fennan ewe. So let me just explain to you, ladies and gentlemen, the Moss-Fennan family, the Welsh family in the up in the Scottish borders, that particular year they gave us the opportunity of all their 5-year-old ewes and older. They are fully recorded on SIL, that flock. We put all those ewes that they offered us into the SIL recording system here in New Zealand, and between Simon and I, we picked out what the traits that we wanted for New Zealand conditions, got it down to 60, and I flew over and we selected the 40 ewes that we wanted. If you have a look in the catalogue, there are a number of 2014 born ewes, so they are 10-year-old ewes. So there's a lot of history of longevity in these sheep, but and the sire 13929 was the pick of their rams that year. So those of you who purchased last year, whilst we've gone to the same 3 studs as we have done, they're the sheep that we've decided are fit for New Zealand for what we want to do, they are all totally unrelated to the previous year. So you can buy any of these sheep with confidence and put them over your half-breeds from last year, and they are totally unrelated, okay? Righto, away we go, ladies and gentlemen, lot 11 and 12. A couple of pretty handy sheep. Away we go, the 51 and 43 kilos.
And they've also got a couple more trade names, and they are called the Brazilians. And I'm pretty sure the Brazilians are 3/4 nudie. And we've also got the Streaker, which is a 50% nudie. So first cross. It's also important just to note that if you do a look for nudie shedding sheep, you will come across the Wairere Nudies here in New Zealand, and there's also some nudies in Australia as well. Let's not confuse the two. We have both options here in New Zealand and in smaller quantities of the Australian ones, and Wairere primarily have the, of course, because it's their brand name, the nudies here in New Zealand. Interesting to note, we do have, I know of one other breeder who are following Wairere and bringing some of that Easycare genetics here into New Zealand. Hey, if you're going to trailblaze, expect others to follow, and it really is a bit of a tribute to what you're doing. Right, very little bit about Wairere. They've been breeding sheep for a very, very long time. Their principal, Derek, and studmaster, has really pushed his sheep breeding beyond what most people in New Zealand have managed to do. As such, he has had to delegate and has a marketing manager and a business manager along with the normal farm staff. And you'll see right there that they aren't shedding sheep, they are romneys. Funnily enough, many years ago when I was riding dirt bikes, I rode bikes with one of the managers of a joint venture that Wairere had, Wairere King, and we would talk dirt bikes and rams while we were out riding together, and that was a joint venture that lasted 25 years. Right, Wairere are probably the biggest ram supplier here in New Zealand. Kind of thinks that they know how to breed sheep, and they have a little bit on here about the farm, around 1,200 hectares of pretty hard country, and some international operations as well. There's a little bit about their breeding strategy. And there's a bit of a statement here, isn't there? What's it saying when the largest ram breeder in New Zealand for bull type sheep goes along and offers a range of shedding sheep as well? Are they giving up on wool? I don't think so. I think wool's still got a future. But it doesn't matter how many times I say wool's a fantastic product, it's not making a difference. My difference is suggesting that more people swap over to shedding sheep, and more people who, if you are growing wool, you grow the very best wool you can. And actually encourage your neighbours to change to shedding sheep, because it helps your bottom line if there's less wool. Wool, of course, is an international problem, and the market's for that. So less wool but better quality, and the laws of supply and demand, inevitably, providing there are markets for it, push the price up. And I still see a place for wool. Now, this sentiment is echoed in the forward by the studmaster Derek. It's reiterated in the forward by the marketing manager, Perrin. And again in the forward by the business manager. And I had a very brief email encounter with Simon. And again, that same supply and demand equalisation that is required for wool, and that shedding sheep are part of the solution. They're not the whole solution, but they're part of the solution. And it's something that farmers, I believe, seriously need to consider with regard to whether they go to lowering costs, lowering their inputs, going for those shedding sheep, or really focus on growing the very best wool that we can. And to do so, we need to breed the very best shedding sheep we can as well. Wairere bringing in some new genetics is going to help with that, because we need that diversity of the genetics to improve the New Zealand sheep. Right in the catalogue, it does outline not a very scientific, but it's still very valuable progeny test that Wairere have done. And it shows that the streaker, the 50% cross, which is of course what a lot of farmers are going to be producing by buying these purebred nudies and putting it across their romneys, especially if they're an existing client of Wairere, they're going to be producing effectively a streaker, which is half nudie, half romney, or whatever their desired wool breed is. Of course, we take your wool breed, lot of data, a lot of breeding there, and then we take a shedding sheep with 30 odd years of development, and we pop those two together. We get some hybrid vigor, so we would expect those lambs to perform very well, and they have done kind of what we expected, possibly better than both of their parents. Still very valuable test. Now in this catalogue, as per normal, and little thing on facial eczema, I've been breeding facial eczema sheep for a long time, a little bit of colour, and I'm coming down to doing more of that on another video. But Even though the sale has been, I still love reading the sale conditions to whether there is a transfer fee. These sheep had a $12,000 transfer fee attached to them if they were bought for stud breeding. And as far as the stud breeding go and the offerings for stud breeders, we know that Wairere kept the best of these sheep for their own breeding program to produce more for next year and the year after. And those top rams that we saw in there, in that top 5, there's definitely a couple of real standout rams. Some will have individual traits that a buyer may be chasing, and that's why they commanded those prices, because they're going for that last little bit. But with Wairere keeping the top ones, I'd love to see what they kept and what's going to happen with these sheep going forward. And it's really important to note that the disclosure here is very important. I think it's really important for breeders to reveal to their buyers how they work in the systems they work on. Because if they choose not to disclose critical information about their sheep, and later on it's found out that they had knowledge of issues with their sheep, or if they didn't fully explain, such as their index, and their index here is an algorithm-based index to aid the buyers in choosing which rams are better. And it is explained. Right, for me, the explanation of the numbers is really important. I do high performance motorsport. I like raw data. I like the calculated values, the algorithms, and how those numbers come around. Wairere do point out that there is limited historical data on these sheep. They have an explanation of their index that is simply aided to make it easier for the buyer to choose which is better. And the average date of birth of these animals, and this is going to be interesting for some overseas people because we refer to them as hoggets, was the 7th of September 2023, the mean birth date. So some were born later in September, some were born, would have been born end of August, making them effectively a 6-month-old animal, and we call them a hogget. We're Kiwis, we do things a little bit different, and it is acceptable to call these animals a hogget here in New Zealand. I might even do a video on that one day because it can be confusing for our overseas friends. One complaint I have here, and I did find that it has a fat score in the live data. As we can see here, we've got some two-tooths that were also offered. Some of them were used in Wairere's own breeding program, and in the performance data we've got this score here, FDM, and we've got a whole lot of other numbers, of course, and we come back to here and it's not included. And I do like to have, if you've included the data in your catalogue, to have the explanation of that, because even I can't remember all of these numbers all the time, and I did have to actually ask one of my mates for a little bit of a reminder on that fat depth measurement. Back to the website, and I will put a link to this, of course. There's a little bit of a newsletter here that they've got, and there is actually some testimonials, and I was surprised that in the catalogue there weren't a few testimonials. Now, Wairere does have a dedicated marketing manager, and I'm not taking a hit at you. I think the catalogue is an awesome output, but of course, because of that structure and that it's not just a mum and dad team at home, I'm super critical, because we've got to have people to follow, and it's great that we see a big wool sheep breeder bringing out and offering to their customers a line of shedding sheep. There's a couple of natural questions that come up. Are they good sheep? 30 years of breeding in the UK, all the hard work done by the founder kind of suggests that they are pretty reasonable shedding sheep. Will they fit New Zealand conditions? Well, the UK is cold, wet and horrible. I'm watching on Facebook at the moment on one of the pages dedicated to the Easycare sheep that they're lambing in snow. Personally, I am a little bit conservative, so I would like to see these sheep trialled more in New Zealand. Now, you don't fetch these sorts of prices without them being pretty good sheep. There's also an element of the fact that Wairere has a large customer base to draw on, and they've listened to what their customers have said, and clearly with some good marketing and a good relationship with their clients, they've turned out these sheep. If these sheep weren't sound, then we would start seeing about it. We'd start seeing feedback, and it's going to affect Wairere's business. It would make a poor business decision to turn out poor quality animals. And of course, there are some exceptional animals, which we focused on at the very beginning. A lot of the others are still very good animals. And it also reflects, the prices reflect where we are in the New Zealand market at this point in time. After those Dutch spotted sheep, the sale was called short because of lack of buyers. That isn't a reflection on the sheep. It's pretty much been the case on every Wiltshire auction I've ever watched online. And of course, I was able to watch this one with the magic of bidder, or attended personally. That this year, because of the depressed lamb market, what we've seen is the top sheep, the top rams especially, fetching top prices. The middle run of sheep have been back a little bit, and those lower end ones have been back considerably, which has been great if I had chosen to buy a new ram this year, but I didn't. I'm waiting till next year. Such is life, and that's what farming is about, the decisions that we make. A couple of things I really liked about the sale was the pick option with having 2 rams on offer. It made it so they could offer both rams to the buyer, and they were selected in such a way that the rams were very, very even in each of those pairings, which was fantastic. I can see that there's a lot of work that went into that. And the other one, of course, is the great things that the auctioneers say. And our auctioneer, fantastic. He's got a great saying, and here it is.
23 and 24, a couple of handy hoggets here. Away we go. Look at that. Once he's done yours, he'll do the neighbours too. Away we go. Plenty of action in these sheep.
Just in case you missed it, he didn't say it just the once.
Yeah, he nearly made it. 5'8". Yeah. I tell you what, when he's finished your ewes, he'll do the neighbours too. 5'8".
I did capture the whole auction for my own use, so I could go back and reference it and analyse it. I've spent hours going through the catalogue, comparing prices to the data provided, and it was good data given the sheep were only 6 months old. Right, and there's those spotted sheep going through, and fantastic. Right, a little bit of feedback. This is an interesting one. We noticed that one of those rams is sporting some horns. Don't go out of the screen. Come back in. Come. As you can see there, we've got some horns, and there were a number of sheep presented with horns. Their numbers were pretty good, and it did give the people an option, or the purchasers an option, to buy some sheep that were a little bit down on price, possibly because of that horns. I'm not sure about that myself. Buying horn sheep from primarily polled source doesn't allow you to breed horned sheep. I've got some mates breeding horned sheep, and buying and putting horned sheep out across your polled sheep, where you will get a small percentage of horned sheep, I don't think that's a great idea either. A little bit up and down on that one. And there were also a couple of sheep with a little bit of extra wool, and I'm normally quite critical on that, and the buyers did say, hey, look, we don't want to pay quite as much for those sheep. The buyers were right in that case. Although most of that wool is going to fall off, or was highly likely to fall off them as a two-tooth. And because they are 6 months old, I might just let that slide just a little bit more than I would if they were a two-tooth. And as a two-tooth, it's more reflective of their shedding ability than as a lamb.
So I think we probably should do a summary there. I've yabbered on for long enough. The Welsh Easycare sheep rebranded over here to be a Wairere Nudie, and I reckon they're pretty suited for New Zealand conditions considering what it's like over in the UK, and they seem to sell very, very well. The buyers like them, and that's a statement too of the quality of the sheep, is the money that's laid on the table on the day. We're going to see more of these. We're going to see them blended into the New Zealand flock, and of course Wairere have the best ones that were brought in. Those embryo transplants that were top notch, they are still here, and Wairere still has them, so they have the potential to breed a lot of these sheep that are very, very good, because who wouldn't keep the best ones if you're bringing them in? Hopefully I haven't upset anyone at Wairere. It wasn't my intention, and hopefully one day, if they're having an open day, I'll make it down to do a video of what they're doing down there and share that shedding sheep story. I'm going to try and focus on that shedding sheep, though there's also those Brazilians and the streakers, which is a whole nother conversation. And I've been asked by a lot of my wool growing mates about that loses its belly around its breech type sheep, to reduce the shearing cost but still have wool, and reduced some of those costs. Another video on that one. And just another note, we are all on the same team. Remember that we are sheep farmers, and whether you've got a few sheep like me, or you're running a big commercial operation, whether you're running wool sheep or you're running shedding sheep, we actually need to work together. We need to share information. We need to talk to each other and share those experiences, and that's what I'm going to help do when I meet people with the shedding sheep or swapping over. I'm going to pick up my camera and I'm going to have a chat and share other people's stories, just like I've done today. Now I also have the sales footage that I've edited out for those top 5 rams, and I'm going to ask really nicely if I can put that in a separate video. So of course, if you're watching this, it will be in that video, because if I'm not allowed, then I'm going to delete this piece out and you're not going to see it. But keep an eye out for that. And for those people who might have watched this and have purchased one of these Wairere Nudies, I'd love a chat. A comment down. I'm on Facebook, Shedding Sheep New Zealand, which is just a landing page to find me. It's not my personal page, and it's only about the sheep. Or Instagram, same thing, Shedding Sheep New Zealand. And maybe we can have a chat and I can get some more feedback on these sheep from someone who's got some. So if you've enjoyed this video, push that like button, share it on your Facebook pages or your social media, and maybe hit the subscribe button. It's going to cost you nothing, it's going to help me out, and we're going to move forward on sharing this sort of knowledge. I got my afternoon checking finished, and so we'll talk to you again soon. Catch you later.